Hello and welcome to the Car Care Reviews channel, and welcome to the Polestar 3. Very interesting car. We're really happy to have the opportunity to check it out and share it with you guys. In today's video, we're going to do a proper technical review under the hood, take a look underneath it, inside and out, some things we like, some things we do not like, right after this. Let's start our technical review under the hood. Most folks will look at an electric car, well, there's just a little frunk under the hood to store stuff. Are you sure about that? How about now? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. Let's dive into them. In my opinion, electric cars are really, instead of having an engine and how many cylinders it has and all the stuff in the transmission, they're really about their thermal management system. How do you heat and cool the cabin? How do you heat and cool the battery efficiently? That's the biggest challenge here. And this car, how should I put it? Things are very rudimentary. I mean, I'm surprised they managed to put a frunk here. And that took a lot of engineering and a lot of work to make it actually work where you have an actual usable frunk. Not as big, but it's there. Because this car's thermal management system is mega complicated for nothing. It really doesn't do anything special. That's the sad part. We see that a lot with electric cars. Let's dive into it. So here's the idea. The battery, 400 volt, 111 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery that sits underneath this car is kind of the heart of the operation. Lithium ion batteries need to operate in a certain temperature. So what cools or heats the battery is the coolant. So that's one circuit. The other circuit is the entire powertrain. So the front and rear motors. In the case of this one, this is a dual motor. Then you have the inverters. So the front motor has an inverter on top of it. The rear motor has an inverter. This is the unit that drives that motor, regenerates from it, and kind of switches voltages around to get everything going. They also have coolant going through them. You have many other little components. The onboard charger, which sits in the back of the car, we'll look at it in a little bit when we look underneath it. That also has coolant going through it. And the reason for that is we want to harness as much heat as possible. So these two circuits work together in this car. Here's the modes. We're not going to go through every single mode because there's a lot more modes, but we're going to talk about the main ones. If the battery is too cold, the two circuits will work together to harness as much heat from components as possible to direct it to the battery. If that is still not enough and we really need to warm up that battery, this actually takes the easy way out. It has a giant electric high voltage electric heater that heats up the coolant, which then heats up the battery and every other component. That is one mode. If we need to cool the battery, we just send coolant to the battery, cool it, that coolant comes back to the radiator, gets cooled, and the cycle continues. But if that's not enough, this has a battery chiller or heat exchanger. So it's going to use the cold refrigerant to cool that coolant, and then that will kind of super cool that coolant, and then that's going to cool the battery. But what about the cabin? We solved the battery thing. What about the cabin? Well, this has a heat pump system, which in theory, it works really good, except the way they execute it here is a little bit strange. So basically what a heat pump system is in very few seconds, a normal AC system, you have the cold side inside, hot side outside. Heat pumps have the ability to switch that. So the hot side is inside, the cold side is out. But this car doesn't have an inside condenser where that hot refrigerant goes inside the cabin to warm it up. That's not how this works. This has another heat exchanger, which also works as a liquid to air condenser that warms up the coolant, and then the coolant warms up the cabin. And if things can't catch up because the temperature is way too cold, that high voltage electric coolant heater will warm up the coolant, and yeah, we have heat. That's how they did it here. And folks, we spent a lot of time with this car. Really, the information is scarce on this technical information. We really tried to study it. We got as much accurate information as possible looking around it. But here's the rundown of this car. You have 111 kilowatt hour battery on all the three trims that it has. It's just kind of an interesting thing. They all have the same battery, so how does this work? Here's my theory on this, because the system is exactly the same, and that's the best part. There is the rear wheel drive model That is a long-range rear-wheel drive model. That one gets up to 350 miles of range, but it makes significantly less power. And I feel like it's the same system. They just kind of programmed it in a way where the motors don't arrive at their peak power, and because you only have one motor to regenerate, they kind of limited the power of the car, because it's the same size battery, to give you that longer range. And then you get into the dual motor, which is the all-wheel drive model, also has the same battery, has the same system. That one gets up to 315 range. I can see that, because now you have a lot more weight, a lot bigger system, and you also have one more motor you got to power up. But at the same time, you have some regeneration, so there is that balance. But the performance on that one is almost the same as the performance pack, which is what this one is. They're basically the same, just this one makes a little bit more power, a little bit faster, has a few of the performance package add-ons, the brakes and whatnot, but it's surprising that they all have the same system, or at least from what we are able to deduce here, looking at technical data, little technical data that is available here. They seem to have the exact same design, all the three models. Same battery size, that's the biggest factor usually. Usually the performance model will have a bigger battery. The long range, well, they're all long range, so I don't know why they call them long range. They're all the same. That's the interesting part. But then I look at the system itself. Let's talk about how do they do this coolant switching and whatnot. And this is what makes or breaks these cars, folks, the efficiency of the system. This Polestar, I really appreciate you guys sharing the car with us. We're really honored and privileged to check out this car. It's a very interesting car to us, but things are rudimentary here. This is just a surprise to me, because there was a day where Tesla was a startup company, and they also kind of barely scraping by to make a car and go. But they had a brilliant system, and that's what put them on the map. That brilliant system. They put in a multi-way valve that can control coolant and refrigerant at the same time. The biggest valve it has a three-way valve. The majority of them are two-way valves. They're scattered everywhere. There's 5 of them. You could compress that into one, but most electric cars are starting to do that. The problem that creates is loss. There is miles and miles of coolant hoses between the components, because remember, we have kind of a circuit that runs across everything so we can harness that heat. It is so busy that I feel like they spend majority of that busy time trying to just push everything in a very tight space just to make the frunk work. That's not how usually frunks work. Usually frunks work when you properly engineer the system. Like if you look at a Tesla system, everything is compacted right here, just right in front of the bulkhead, where you have all this empty space. There's nothing else. This is not like that. It gives you that illusion, but it's not the case, because folks, the miles of coolant hoses all over the place is alarming. That's the only way I'll say it. And the other thing is, the heat pump system is not exactly that per se. They basically flip the flow for the liquid to liquid condenser to make heat pump work. They're basically reversing the cycle just to heat up the coolant so we can heat up the cabin. That's another small thing I gotta say. It's not a fully sophisticated heat pump system. And the other thing is, my biggest concern with this car is, this is a startup company. I really, from the bottom of my heart, want things to go well, because they did a lot of good things here. But if they don't, and you lose support for this car, there is an extreme use of plastic here in the cooling system. It is very alarming. I mean, there's these big junctions that just connect a lot of hoses, all plastic. They don't feel like a very good quality plastic. That's the concerns I have with this car. As an electric system, I mean, it holds the range okay, decent. I'll call it decent here because we have to be truthful. But we also tested it in normal weather, 50, 60 degrees. We didn't test it in extreme cold weather, so I have a feeling, just by looking at the system, I don't think it'll do well in extreme cold or extreme hot, because there is too much loss in all these hoses going all over the place. That's the concern I have with this one. Let's take a look underneath the Polestar 3. So, entire car is covered up. Electric cars, typical. Let's look at a few finer details. This is a subframe. It is aluminum and very nice welds, but I wish we would have cleaned them up a little bit. saying that. It's okay. We can move past that. This is the oil pan. Actually, no. This is the bottom of the electric motor. I like that they put this blanket around it. Some Velcro, red Velcro too. Pretty special. How about that? Let's move on to the front suspension here, because this is a very interesting front suspension. So you have a double wishbone suspension setup. You have the lower one here, upper one. Everything is aluminum. I mean, everything is aluminum. Lower control arm, strut mount here, the knuckle, everything is aluminum. And here's the, let me just, how should I say it? I'm just gonna say it, there's no other way to say it. A disaster. This is a disaster. Just car engineers out there, you see this, please don't do this. Try not to do this. So this bolt is threaded into this. Here's what's going to happen 5 to 7 years from now when you take that out. This will never come out, and you're going to destroy this, and you have to replace it. If they would have just put a nut here, nothing of that would have happened. But it's okay. We still love you. We forgive you. Even the backing plate is not steel. That's just how they do this. Massive brakes, Brembo brakes. Massive, and I don't understand why this brake line comes out and it kind of makes a loop, goes up. Guess that's the hose they had in hand. Axles are painted on both sides. Pretty big axle here, pretty cool. But then we get here. This is the battery. I really like one thing and dislike another. I like how everything is covered. I mean, down to the edge, there's nothing open. Then the lift points are on the battery itself. I mean, it took us a minute because I thought I saw this cover, I took it out, nothing. There's actually a coolant hose that runs here. These are the lift points for this car. It's just right on the battery. So, yeah, that's not going anywhere. You hit that, now I worry about what you hit, not this, because this is pretty high quality. I love the finish on this. It just looks beautiful. Then we go to the back here. This is where there's a couple strange things. Start with the suspension. Aluminum subframe. Volvo loves Volvo. Of course, if you don't know, Polestar is heavily involved with Volvo. Volvo, clearly. Giant arm here. It's pretty over elaborate. And then this, of course, has air suspension. So, yeah, giant airbag here. And you do have somewhere in there, right there, you can barely see it, there is a caliper with integrated park and brake on it. It's a pretty nice yellow color. This is the rear motor. You notice it's very similar to the front one. And this is the onboard charger. This is what converts that AC to DC. Well, it doesn't really do it here. That's the interesting part. There's two parts to this charger, one under the hood, one here. You notice coolant hoses running to it. Of course, there's coolant hoses all over the place. Really like this. Hose clamp. See? That's so nice. But then right here, quick disconnect, plastic. And then one-time use hose, the clamp. I don't know. I mean, we did this right. Why can't we do this one? My favorite one is this one. You have two hoses. We cut them, and the cut's not even straight. And then we put this horrible plastic thing and two one-time use clamps. Why don't we just leave the hose as one unit? I don't know what happened there. Then there are this speaker. This is a proximity speaker. There's two of them in the front. Folks, this is the case with Volvo. I mean, yes, it's Polestar, but it is heavily influenced by Volvo. Build quality is very nice here, but everything is strange. I mean, this is something with Swedish cars that are just, they don't design things like anybody else. We usually say the Germans overcomplicate stuff. The Swedes just, they have their own way. And sometimes it is beautiful how they do things. I mean, this suspension, it's just, do we need an arm this big and something this massive? And all this massive arm, we have another one here. That's just how the Swedes do things. Beautiful. Let's take a look at the outside of the Polestar 3. And I just gotta say one thing. This is one of the most strange looking cars you will see. Because at initial glance, like the headlights will appear a little bit like Volvo-like, but it attracts a lot of attention because it's just a strange look. Not in a bad way, don't get me wrong, I think it looks good. But a lot of folks it'll turn a lot of heads and people will be looking at it, mainly because they don't recognize it. See, most folks will see cars in the streets, everyday cars, that recognize them. This one, very unrecognizable. And what makes it distinct is most cars will have wings in the back. This one has one in the front. Very, very cool. If you look here, this is actually a front wing for aerodynamics. Actually, a functional one, which is pretty cool, because this air goes up, and then we'll show you the rear little wing that it has. But it's very interesting because Polestar engineered. Well, it's a Polestar. Obviously, it is engineered by Polestar. That's how cars usually work. But they wrote that for you, and it's a white, and it's just a very strange car. Let's walk around. The thing is, the design is, I feel like, unique, because if you look at the hood, other than this dip to accommodate the passage for the air here, there isn't really much going on. I mean, you look at the side profile, minus the bottom, it's not over the top. And that's the interesting part. And then there's this compliance thing here for the US, because that's the side marker. We have to have side markers. Massive wheels, and they're staggered tires, massive tire in the back. And for some reason, I feel like Polestar did everything with the car and they ran out of funding, something, because this is a sticker. It's just, they couldn't make a badge. Sticker will do. They all have it. And yeah, that's the only place where we'll say what kind of Polestar it is, or actually the words Polestar. The mirror. Mirror is initially you look at it, it's like, is this missing something? It's actually very cool. It's like a pedestal, and then the mirror kind of sits on it. Mirror is a very interesting shape. I mean, for a car like this, it's kind of like a spaceship on wheels. I can see it. That's a very cool looking mirror. Then there is the part where they ran out of paint. I mean, this thing is a $93,000 car. Why do I have bare plastic all over the bottom? Now, I know to make it all rugged and whatever, but I mean, we did this kind of shiny black. Couldn't we have done the rest? Guess not. They ran out of paint. It's okay. Then there's the door handles. So the door handles are one of those that pop up and come down, and it's actually an electronic handle. It's not an actual handle. There you go. The car all comes on and starts yelling at us. Here's interesting. This has a digital key, and when you buy the car, you get this. You have a little credit card and this thing. And if you want to lock or unlock the doors with this, you can't. It only works on the driver's door. You have to put it right here, then it'll lock, and then you have to put it right here for it to unlock. Obviously, there's an electric car, a futuristic car, you have a digital key, whatnot, but that's how that works. Here is the interesting thing, though. This has soft close doors. All 4 doors are soft close. Don't know why we need soft closed doors in a car like this. There's a small crossover SUV, but we do. Then the rear area here, it's very interesting. This goes up, kind of wraps around and comes back. I like this little touch. It just gives it an interesting profile. Here's the other wing. And you notice it's open as well. So this is actually an aerodynamic wing. The front one and the rear one, they kind of work together. You do have a wiper here. It's a very interesting shape. You're going to see a lot of wipers like that. In the back, this is what I love. You don't have Polestar, electric, performance, all-wheel drive. You don't have any badges. I wish manufacturers would watch this and learn from Polestar. They just put their insignia. That's it. That's all you need to know. Do we need to know what this car is? Actually, we don't. The only place where it says it is on the door, and it's a sticker. You can peel it off when we're done. I love the taillights. They're bar taillight. They're just, this part doesn't look like Volvo. This part is unique to this. I really like how it looks. And then there is this little thing. Really is like this thing. It looks completely off. And I'm thinking it's something very aerodynamic, but it just looks hideous. Then there's the back door. So the button to open it is here. It's a power back door. Pretty decent space in the back here. It's a little bit sloped, heavy slope here, especially at the top, but it's a decent usable space. I really like the materials they use here. Pretty heavy wearing material. You have this beautiful aluminum piece, although not completely covered like some luxury cars in this half this price range. But then there is storage here, which surprisingly, this is a pretty deep storage. Reason is electric car, you don't have a muffler here, so you can put that storage. Then there are these two buttons here. They're supposedly to raise and lower the car, and I tried for a long time to make them work. Let's give it one more shot. Watch, they'll work now that we said that. There are these touch capacitive dealios. I'm pretty sure they work, and I'm too ignorant to figure out how they work, but there's that gimmick. This is a power door. You can close the door, lock it, or just close it. So pretty nice door. It actually works pretty good, pretty quiet. Let's look at the charge door here. Please don't let this be flimsy. Why? I don't get it. All electric cars are like that. You're gonna use this very frequently. So you got a charge port. You do have fast DC charging here. The top one does not have a cover, which is a little bit. I mean, they do give you a little bit seal here. I feel like slightly not sufficient. Let's move on with that. You do have a light, which is nice. So in order to lock your Polestar, which doesn't have a start button, none of that. This is one of those keyless cars. You have to put the thing here. Now the car is locked. This is the only place you can do that with, not any of the other handles. And then you have to put this here for it to unlock. Here's my problem with that. Look, I get it. You get a digital key on your phone. Great. But when you pay $93,000 for this particular car right here, wouldn't I want to have the phone feature and digital key? Great. But I also want that regular car like my economy car with a couple more trims of options have, where you can just walk up to the door, do this, it'll open, do this, and unlock. Polestar is not the only ones that do this. Tesla is also the same way, but why don't they do that? I mean, you're charging all this money. At least add that as a secondary feature. That would be nice. And the last thing I want to show you is, say your battery dies. This has a 12-volt battery under the hood. Say your battery died. How are you going to open the doors? This is electronic. Which now is stuck. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Which now just went away on me. Let's try it again. See? This is what I don't like about these. Now we lock the car. Now we unlocked it again. This is not a handle, folks. This is just an electronic button. So what do you do when your battery dies? Well, here's what you do. First, join me in laying on the floor to jumpstart your $93,000 car. Over here, you will have a little door which you push and keep fighting with until it comes down. There we go. And then you have this little thing which loves to come off of the handle. Your positive is right here, and your negative is right here. Very interesting. My number one question is, once I put Polestar's car back together, here we go. The only question I have is, why? Why don't you make that handle just has a mechanical release, like every other car, and we're good? Well, that's how it is. Let's take a look at the interior of the Polestar 3, where things go to the next level on certain things. But first, let's talk about the fit and finish and kind of materials and the overall build quality here. There's no other way to say it, it's impeccable. Usually startups, it will not take you long inside their cars to kind of look around to see where they need work here and things are kind of glued and zip tied together. Not here. Very impressive execution of this interior from a build quality standpoint. Materials are nice, everything fits, nothing rattles, nothing creaks, nothing feel like an afterthought. Everything is very nice. But then we get into the Swedish part. There's no way around it. This is full of strange stuff. So this is the Swedish take, this is what I'm going to call it at least. This is a Swedish take on Tesla. So this car has no buttons. There's absolutely no button, not even a start button. So there is that. You only have this little thing in the middle. This little thing in the middle, if you press it, it plays or pause. And then you turn it, it changes the volume. And even though it's barely labeled, if you kind of switch it to the side, it skips and goes and previous track. Then there is the little gauge. It's a tiny screen that has two functions. You display the map or don't display the map. That's the only thing it does. It shows the speed and whatnot. And then interestingly, the range is, when you're above 100 miles, it drops in 10-mile increments. And when you're below 100 miles, it drops in 5-mile increments, further adding to your range anxiety. Yeah, that's how this works. Interestingly, this car, this particular performance pack, has very cool, very out of place yellow seat belts. Because why not? We couldn't have them without the yellow seat belt. Then everything is centered in this infotainment screen, which is pretty responsive. I'll give it that. It's a decent size, and most of your controls are at the bottom, but it doesn't take you long to get into this to realize this is an Android tablet that is very generic. I mean, nothing is physical. The only thing, you have a shifter, which I really like. It's a normal shifter. Just push it down, drive, push it up, reverse, push the button, park. Your wiper controls are here, at least somewhat here. They work, and that I love that they left it there. But everything else is here, including your glove box, your steering adjustment, your mirror adjustments. So if this was a little bit more intuitive and a little bit more less generic feeling, would be nice. That's where I'm going to leave it. Then we get to the situation of the steering wheel. You start this car, there is no buttons on the steering wheel. There's nothing. These buttons are just blank. There is no light that lights up. There is nothing. And the best part is, you only have two functions here that work. You have voice control and then map or no map on the gauge. The rest of them do absolutely nothing. I really spent a lot of time trying to figure out, without going in the manual of Anderson, I wanted to figure it out. How would an owner get into this car and figure it out? So when you go to your steering controls, you can adjust it here, and your mirrors. This one, you can increase or decrease the cruise control once you engage it. And these two, I don't exactly know what they do. If you do know, please educate us here, because I have no idea what they do. Why? This is the problem with why. This is not very well thought out. It completely feels, it gives you that vibes of a startup company where they just put it there like, oh, we don't know whether, let's leave them like that. It's fine. That's how it feels like. Now this car does have a glass roof, and you can option it with a kind of a self-dimming thing. That's how they did that. But then there's one more tiny quirk. So the window switches. Well, there's only two of them. This car has 4 windows. There's actually a second button you press to operate your rear window, because they couldn't bother to put 4 switches. I feel like that's super gimmicky and unnecessary, but I guess in their quest to keep things minimalist, they did that. It works, but yeah. Driving this car. The thing about the driving experience of this car is, this is a performance pack. It's pretty fast. Yes, that can be said about a lot of electric cars, but I like that the suspension is able to find that perfect middle ground. You have, if you put it on sport and kind of firm suspension and whatnot, it gets pretty firm, but when you put it on standard, it's pretty smooth. For a car that has these big wheels and these aggressive tires and how aggressive performance pack it is, it actually handles very nice. It's smooth, insulated. The cabin is pretty quiet. The sound system is amazing. It's an optional sound system. It's pretty nice. That's all I'll tell you. Overall, this interior I feel like is well executed. Infotainment system could use some work, because if everything is going to be here, it needs to be a little bit more intuitive. Let's talk about the back seat of the Polestar 3. I'm 5'7". This is my driving position. Very comfortable seat. The only problem I have with this seat is, look at my thigh angle here. It's actually not a very comfortable seat long term. You have to really stretch your legs to be comfortable, and then you're all underneath the front seat. The seat is too low. That's the only complaint I have about it. You do have a separate climate control zone here. You do have 2 vents here. You still have the cool yellow seat belts here. There's something we didn't talk about in the front. I'm going to talk about it here. The seats apparently are 100% traced leather, animal welfare secured. And I honestly, initially when I looked at it, I have no idea what that means. So we Googled it to educate ourselves. That means that they have traced this animal, that no animal was killed to make these seats. So they waited for the animal to die, then do that. I guess if I'm wrong, please correct me, but it's very interesting that they put that front and back seats, just in case you missed it. The one thing I like though, they covered I don't think this is the same. This has the optional $5,500 ventilated Napa leather. Napa leather is here. This one also has a leather. I don't think it's the same, but it's actually really nice that they cover the bag as well with a nice material. Usually this is where manufacturers skimp on things. So, the Polestar 3. Folks, I want to start by saying this. First, I really appreciate Polestar for giving us the opportunity to check out this car. It's a very interesting car. It's a new brand, newish brand, and really appreciate that. However, the truth has to be said. I am very confused as exactly what is the purpose of this car. What is it meant to do? That's my problem with it. So the first thing is, let's talk about the performance side, since this is a performance pack. It even has the very yellow seatbelts. The handling. It is okay, but not to the level that it should be. And the biggest thing about this car is the steering feel is okay for the most part. Actually, it's better than the handling, but the weight is a problem. You feel the weight in this car. You take it around a corner a little bit more spiritedly, you're going to feel that weight, because this weighs a lot north of 5,000 pounds. That's a pretty heavy car. This is not a big car, folks. The next thing is the kind of usability or the luxury car part. That part, they get it a lot better. You go on the inside. Inside is very nice. Finish is very nice. Execution is very nice. The materials are super nice. I mean, installation is nice. Everything is top notch. Let's put it this way. Then we get to the tech. And this is where I don't like the footsteps that they're following. Let's put it this way. This is one of those cars that just repel buttons. Some folks will like that. But the problem is, as a car that doesn't have buttons and everything in one giant screen, it just feels like there's a lot of room for improvement. There's no other way to say it. The infotainment screen, it just feels very generic, very Android-like. There's nothing wrong with Android, but in a car of this price and this kind of stature, if you would, it could use a lot of improvements. I mean, most of the operations is a multi-click operation. The interface is not very well thought out. It does everything you need it to do. It's pretty fast, pretty streamlined, whatnot, but if you're going to put everything in a screen, it needs to be a little bit better than that, because there is no buttons inside of here. There is absolutely nothing. The only thing I like is they left the shifter alone, and they at least left the wipers alone. Here's when problems get big with this car. These start right around upper 60s. This particular one, with a performance pack and every single option under the sun, is $93,000. And at that point, this is a performance pack. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. That sounds very fast, but is it? Because a Tesla Model Y costs half what this costs, and it's faster, and it has a better range. And it has a better infotainment system and no buttons anywhere deal. That's where things get to be a problem. I feel like this car is a great start. It's a new company, folks, and this is one of their models that is coming up. It's a great start because the car looks very good and very interesting, and that's what cars like this is supposed to do. For the most part, the interior is very well executed. It has that wow factor, and you pay $93,000 for a car, you want that. That's what you're looking for. It does have that very well, but I feel like there's room for improvement. But the problem is when you talk about a $93,000 car and we say there's room for improvement, that becomes a problem, because we're not talking about a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 car. We're talking about the cheapest one is almost 70. You add everything, it's over 70. It needs more work, and mainly in the range department. The range in the performance one is not great, and some of the infotainment tweaks need some work. And just the biggest problem with manufacturers that are new, I hope things go well for them, because I think it's a great start. But if it doesn't, the mother company of this one is another company that is small and kind of niche, Volvo. Repairing this, if some things go south, is going to be a problem. That's the other thing you want to consider in a car like this. I feel like the performance pack makes absolutely no sense. I got to flat out and say it, because the difference between a performance pack and a long range dual motor is very small in performance. And then you have longer range, and if you really want to enter into this car, I actually recommend the base model, because Yeah, it's a rear-wheel drive, but it gets the longest range, doesn't cost as much, and you really get majority of the stuff that make this car good, mainly the looks and the feel of the interior. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.